So these power stations are pretty great. They can run a whole variety of things off the grid, but can this one run ham radio without wrecking HF with noise? Well, let's find out. So this is the Bluetti Elite 100. This is the version 2. It's a new model that has come out. It's a little bit different than the previous model that I did a review on this channel. That was the AC 180. So what we're going to do is have a look whether this can power a real ham radio station like I've got over the back here in the shack, whether it can do it when we lose power, off-grid, portable operation, those kind of things. Is it noisy on HF? That's the biggest thing with these power stations, because they have AC inverters in them and other electronics that can cause noise, and QRM, QRN, all those sort of things. Will it do it from this particular unit? So we can have a look at that. And should you care, when would you use one of these compared to, say, just a simple battery system? Okay, so here's a quick side-by-side. This is the AC 180 and this is the new unit, the Elite 100. Now you can already see that there is a little bit of a difference in the size. The new one here on the right is slightly lighter and smaller. I think it's about 5 kilos lighter. Now this old one has slightly more capacity. You can see there that it's got 1152 watt hours, whereas the new one's got 1024 watt hours. So just slightly smaller, but they have the same inverter capacity. They're both they're both 1800 watts, but they will do 2700 watts on the boost mode that they've got. Now the port layouts are reasonably similar between these two. The biggest thing though that is a change is the DC or solar input. Here on the AC 180 it was only good from 12 to 60 volts at 10 amps. Here using, I can't remember what these connectors are, they're like a DC barrel jack thing. Someone in the comments will tell me what they are, I'm sure. But now what they've done is they've upgraded to the XT60 12 to 60 volt 20 amps, so 1000 watts, so you can put 1000 watts into this thing. It also has faster AC charging on the Elite 100. You've also got the DC outputs here, so you've got a 10 amp 12 volt cigarette lighter socket, but then you've also got these dual 8 amp outputs here on the front too. So a little bit of a change. USB-C as well has a higher output, 140 watts compared to 100 watts here. The USB-A's, I think they're pretty much all the same, and everything else is very similar. The AC 180 has wireless charging here on the top, whereas you don't get that on the smaller unit. But like spec for spec wise, they're pretty similar. So yeah, there's not a lot of difference there. Okay, so in a ham radio context, where would you use one of these? Well, these are good for portable operations. They're good for caravans, parks, emergencies, backup power supplies as well, because these have a UPS, so you can connect them into the power, connect them up to your equipment, not just radio equipment. It could be your server equipment, your network equipment, anything that's sort of critical that you want to keep on when the power goes off, and then it will just seamlessly switch over when the power comes back on. It is a one box solution, so if you want to run your, say you are running this for ham radio and you want to run your power from it, so you can power your radios, but you can also, because it's got the inverter, power 240 volt stuff, your laptop, your coffee machine, your heater up to a certain wattage, of course. They're supposed to be designed to replace a generator. So a lot of people would run a generator. These are sort of a silent generator. Now, these aren't a replacement for everything, but they are very convenient. If you want to run all of your appliances off of this box itself, it's silent. It's not like a generator running where you've got noisy and then you've got to run a power lead and you've got to run it a long way away from your equipment. If you're running portable, then you can use this instead. Now, it also is a good replacement if you don't want to lug batteries around and a separate inverter. Of course, if you've already got an inverter and all that sort of stuff, then you can do that, but this has everything built in. Now, where I use this is specifically for portable operations where we want to run certain things without running a generator. So we ran this, we ran the old unit a couple of months ago where we were doing an Earth, Moon, Earth demonstration for a local astronomical society, and we ran this with all of the equipment. We were running the dish, we were running the motor, we were running our laptops, we were running an IC 9700, which we were also using to look for satellite contacts from the International Space Station, and everything ran off that and it worked really well. I also use this for microwave operations as well. So if I'm setting up portable and I need to run a separate power supply, I can run the power supply straight off of here rather than running a generator. In the past, we've run a generator before, and I've run it while the camera's running as well, and it's been very noisy. Centimeters, 13 centimeters, and
9 centimeters.
9 centimeters, yeah. And what we can do is we can also charge it with solar and plug all that sort of stuff into if we're going to be off grid for quite a while and we're running out of power. But they're just a couple of use cases. It's not necessarily restricted just to radio. You could also run other stuff as well. Now, there's obviously some limits. The limits are that you have the DC output, which is 10 amps. So if you've got a radio or any piece of equipment that's going to be running more than 10 amps out of this, then you just got to keep that in mind as well. I don't like that. I would like to see an Anderson power pole on here that can do like 30 amps, because then you could plug your radio directly into it or your high current DC stuff. At the moment, the restriction with the 10 amps here on the DC side of things is it's just what it is. It's restrictive. So what you have to do is you have to then run a separate power supply off of the AC side of things, which is generally what you have to do with a generator anyway. If you've got a generator, you usually only have an AC output. So you have to run a separate power supply. So there's not a lot of difference there, but I think the fact that this has got a battery and everything already built in, the restrictive thing is the fact that you don't have that Anderson power pole or something that can give us some high current output. Now, obviously RF noise is the biggest concern with these units. As soon as you either charge it or you plug in or turn on the AC inverter, then there's switching electronics in here that turn on. So they can cause RFI on HF. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an RF test. I'm just going to plug it into my shack here, my station here, and plug it into the antenna, power everything off of this, and just see if we can detect any RFI at all. So I think it's important to set a baseline here. So we're just looking now at 40 meters. This is my normal noise level. You can see there it's about S6 to S7 sort of peaking there during the day at the moment. There's a couple of carriers along here, but I live in suburbia, so that's kind of to be expected. So you can see that that's kind of what my normal noise level looks like. If we go up to, let's go 30 meters. 30 meters is not as noisy, but you can still see that there are quite a few carriers or random sort of noise glitches and spurs and stuff from whatever that is around the place here. On 20 meters, there is a little bit more noise. You can see on that current frequency, 14154. At the moment there is a couple of carriers, but across the board, it's about an S5 to S6, and you can see that there's still, quite a few little spurs here and there. Just quickly to 15 meters, a little bit less noise. There's still a couple of birdies and things along the band there. 12 meters, pretty much similar, all the same. 10 meters is pretty quiet. There's not really anything on 10 meters at all. Maybe a couple of birdies here and there, but everything else is pretty good. And then lastly, 6 meters, which is reasonably quiet. There isn't a lot of noise at all. So that's kind of our baseline now. So let's go through and we'll connect up the power station and just see how much noise there is generated. All right, so I've plugged it in. We're drawing about 105 watts just sitting there on standby. And you can see that we're on 40 meters now. Again, that S6 to S7 noise. My antenna at the moment is my DX Commander out in the backyard. It is reasonably close. It's not that far away. I mean, I've just got the power station just sitting there on the bench at the moment, so it's not like it's out sitting next to the antenna. But at the moment, we're not sort of seeing anything on 40 that I can see that's any different than what I normally get. If we go up to 10 megs, if I go down slightly to 10100, I don't really see any sort of massive difference. In fact, there's an actual signal, someone talking on SSB on 30. Now on 20 meters there is not a lot of difference. You can see 14153. I think before we had some interference there. I'll go side by side and just sort of have a look. I'm not sure whether that's actually being caused or not by the power station or whether that was there before. Anything else? This hash is sort of here all the time. 20 meters is reasonably reasonably noisy here. If we go to 18 megs, I don't think I actually did a baseline on that before, but that's what 18 looks like. 15 meters, those couple of maybe little birdies, but there's not really seeing anything much. 12 meters, those birdies were there before, I remember those, but the overall noise level, there's no real sort of super high spurs or anything. I believe that they're always there. 10 meters is pretty much silent. There's these random birdies, but they're always there. 28,500 or 28,501, definitely, that's always there. And then 6 meters is also quiet. So I can't actually tell the difference practically by just plugging it in here on the bench and listening on my radio here at home. I mean, the antenna is outside and it's, you know, sort of not a long way away, but I'm not picking up anything at all. It's certainly nothing as drastic as I've seen on some of the other units that I have reviewed before. Now, obviously this isn't lab perfect or anything like that. Now, I have gone and gotten my IC705 and I have plugged in just this little whip here onto the side, turn the radio on, and AM is a very good way of detecting if there's any noise because you can hear it and pick it up a lot easier. So if I go here to 40 meters and I go to AM, and you'll hear just that normal AM sound. Now I've got lights and everything here in the studio as well, but if I move that around, you'll hear that there isn't really too much. Now if I bring it near this, you hear that it does increase. But as soon as I move away from it, it drops right off. And the S meter sort of goes down, and it depends on where I am here in the room. Obviously I'd have to turn absolutely everything off to make sure. Here's another test. So this is on 160 meters. So if I put the antenna right next to it, I can hear it. If I move it away, it disappears. If I move it here near the power lead, I can hear it. I can hear it again near there. I can hear it here off the top. But as soon as I move it away, it disappears. Now if I go and actually power everything off and turn the power supply off and turn off this. So we powered it off. There's no noise being generated from anywhere sort of around here, and it's reasonably quiet. If I go near my lights, I can hear it getting noisier. So there's that sort of a baseline. As soon as I turn this back on, turn the AC on, you can hear it click and come on. Now, that's obviously an extreme test because I've got the antenna right next to the electronics, but just running it here, if I put it back under load here and turn on the radio. So we've got the radio back on now. So about 100 watts of load, and I can't actually hear it just sort of moving around here in the shack. It's sort of, there's no interference detected. As soon as I go near here, I can hear it. So it kind of indicates to me that the RFI is not getting too far away from this. Obviously this is not a perfect test. This is just a really, it's not a lab test, it's just a simple test just to see if I could hear it wiping out an entire band or something like that, but I don't seem to be able to hear that. So the next test that I'm going to do is a load test. So what I've got here is I've got obviously it running at 100% on HF power, so 100 watts. So if we key down here, let's go to a spare frequency. 10 meters has been pretty dead, so that looks good. Key down here on RTTY, 100 watts, we're drawing 20 amps out of the power supply. And on the front of our display, we're running only about 343 watts. So it is doing that without even breaking a sweat. Now, if you want to see the review of the AC180 to decide between the two, then there is a video here on the screen about that. And there is also a link in the description below for more information on this particular unit.